go.
All right, at this time, I'm going to introduce Brian Post, who has the program for today. Please give him a big round of applause.
All right, so I'm my own program today. I thought I wanted to do something a little bit different today, so I thought this would be fun. So I don't know if many of you ever catch on to Bruce calling me Wally or not, but that's kind of our program today. So if you know who Wally Post is, raise your hand. You ever heard the name? No. All right, this will be fun then. All right, so Wally Post is my great uncle. He was a Major League Baseball player for 10 years for the Cincinnati Reds and various teams. Ended up being 12-something years. And then my grandpa is Eddie. So that's kind of what I'm going over today. I have a slideshow, but obviously I'm not putting it up there. But I brought some baseball cards, some pictures, but a little bit about their story. I thought it would just kind of be fun to share, something different. So I'll go over this with you, but even though you can't really see it. So basically I wrote Eddie, Grandpa, and Wally Post, great uncle, from small town baseball to the big show. So just kind of their story that dates back to the 40s. So this first picture I have here, which you can maybe see, maybe not, but these two brothers, my grandpa Eddie is older than Wally, started playing baseball together at St. Henry High School, so where I graduated from, about an hour and a half south of here. Those were kind of the dynamic duo. A couple of other players were pretty good on that team too, but in 1945 they went to the state championship game, lost 9-8. And the ironic thing, Wally then got signed to the Reds at 16 years old. So, and the crazy thing is he didn't play baseball until he was a freshman. So talk about just some raw talent and just a natural ability to play the game. So this first picture I have here is their picture from the state championship year in 1945 as the runner-up. So just kind of a cool picture. Now I got some stuff I'll pass around, and if you want to see any of this later, you certainly can. So kind of in the beginning, they were both kind of the stars that pitched. So when one pitched, the other played first. And then when the other pitched, the other played first. And so they kind of alternate positions. And so really, Eddie got signed in 1945 to his first contract. Wally got signed to the Reds in 1946 as a 16-year-old. So first year really wasn't much for Wally, but kind of in his second year, they assigned him to the Muncie Reds, which I wish Greg was here to kind of better understand them. So at that age, so he went 17-7 with a 3.3 ERA, his second year in the pros with the Muncie Reds. So the cool thing is they actually played on the same team that year. So professionally, they got to play on the same team, the only time they were ever teammates together during that 10 years. So, but Eddie, who would be my grandpa, actually outdid Wally that year. He was 19-8 record. And he had a 2.02 ERA. So pretty phenomenal talent between the two. And then, as most of you may know, does anybody know who Joe Nuxall is? The famous Red. They were teammates as well in Muncie. So became pretty good friends down the road. But Joe Nuxall was known as the youngest player to ever play in a Major League Baseball game. Then eventually was a strong pitcher for them, and then became a color commentator on their games. So the cool thing is, I think a lot of people talk about this, is both of them pitched better than Nuxall in 47, who was only 7-7 that year. So just kind of a cool little thing there. And so then I'll go to Grandpa Eddie, kind of his career first. So he was a lefty. His first year, he was 4-3, 1945 with the Middletown Rockets. So that's kind of where he got his start. But then kind of ironically, his season was cut short. He got called to military. So in July 27, 1945, he went to the Army. So his season that year was cut a little short. But then when it ended in 1947, he signed as a free agent, as I kind of already mentioned, with the Muncie Reds. Through his time there, he was 20-8 with a 2.20 ERA, only allowing 181 hits and giving up 112 walks, 200 strikeouts. So he pitched 245 innings. So he would lead the Ohio State League in ERA and was second in victories. So his career started to slide after that. He was 4-10 with almost a 4-point ERA with the Hartford Chiefs and the Greenville Majors and so on and so forth. But then he had an injury. So the next one I have here is his injury bug. So in 1949, he had arm problems that kept him off the mound. So he wasn't able to throw anymore, but then what they did is they kind of had him try to be a pinch hitter and have a running role in early 49, and then eventually kind of got optioned to the Evansville Braves. where he was later just put on the disabled list. So unfortunately, his career got cut short. He got invited to spring training in 1950 with the Boston Braves, if you remember that team. So they were a true Major League Baseball team. Worked out with them in the spring training, never got any appearances, but then he re-upped in the military, had a back injury, and that was it. So then he was done after 2 injuries, essentially. So Grandpa's years were cut short. Both of them were super talented. So he did not actually get as much MLB fame as Wally. And we'll kind of go over that next. So Wally, he made his Major League debut at the age of 20, September 18th, 1949. His first game he entered was at Crosley Field in the bottom of the 9th inning in a tie game against Boston. So came in to run. So really, he kind of shuttled back and forth between the majors and minors for the next 3 years. He was in Tulsa, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Milwaukee, back in Cincinnati, Indianapolis, back in Cincinnati in '53. And then in 1954, he started a 10-year stint in the majors with no demotions after that. So 10 consecutive years. So, and I've got pictures and stuff here, but his most productive season was in 1955. He hit 309, 40 home runs, 109 RBIs, which were all career highs for him for the Reds. So it was a heck of a year. And then in 1957, and I know this is talked about a lot, Wally and then 6 of his teammates, if you remember this, it was Ed Bailey, Johnny Temple, Rory McMillan, Don Hope, Gus Bell, and Frank Robinson were all voted starters of the National League All-Star team. So the Reds fans tried to do what they called a ballot stuffing campaign. And so they tried to get all the Reds players to be starters, and it worked. Until the commissioner intervened, and he removed Bell, and then he removed Wally from the starting lineup and replaced him with Hank Aaron and Willie Mays. So kind of a fun little story there. Wally was actually hurt, so he wouldn't have really played anyway in that game. But kind of some cool stuff from the Reds fans there. So he was known for power. So in 1961, and it's hard to record this, but they say he hit one of the longest recorded home runs in baseball history at Busch Stadium. That would be St. Louis. The Mammoth Blast was about 569 feet, is what they're saying. Another fun fact is he hit the first home run at Dodger Stadium, April 10th, 1962. So something he'll always hold on to. And I've got a video here I'll show you, and you can see it later. But does anybody remember the show Home Run Derby? The actual show? If not, I mean, it's older, it's in the 50s. I don't know how it went in the 60s, if anybody ever seen. But basically what it was is you'd invite, I think, an American League player and a National League player. They'd have a commentator. So one batter would go up, and they'd get a certain amount of outs to try to hit a home run in the first inning. And then the next batter would go up. And so you do 9 innings of this. Well, he beat Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron was on like an extremely big win streak. And you get $2,000 if you win, $1,000 if you lose, and $500 if you get 3 consecutive. So just kind of funny to think about the money that produced versus what these guys are getting today. So I have a little video. And it's obviously we're not going to be able to watch it on the big screen. But I'll just kind of show you, and I'll try to turn it up here, and you can always come up and see it later. But this will be kind of cool I'll just kind of show you what this show is about. So I'll just start it from the beginning. It's just kind of funny to hear. So this would have been the show that they played throughout the week, and it's all these names.
I'm Mark Scott, and today on Home Run Derby, Hank Aaron, who has met and defeated 6 great opponents, will meet another great National League slugger, Wally Post. The boys have just finished their batting practice, so let's go out and meet them.
So then he comes out here, and it's Wally and Hank Aaron.
Wally, good to have you on Home Run Derby. Thanks, Mark. As you know, winner receives $2,000.
$2,000. So then I'll kind of fast forward it, but here's kind of the whole idea is they'll pitch to him, and so Wally's up 3-0. He hit a home run there. and then they kind of talk to the guys back and forth. And so it's just kind of a neat little show. Something that I've always kind of found was pretty neat. I saw this when I was a young kid. My dad got to show me that. And so this is on YouTube. You can actually find it now. So it's just a pretty cool little video that I wanted to share, because you don't really see that kind of stuff anymore. So it's just kind of funny. Man, he tagged that one. Just the kind of the comments in there. So that's kind of just a cool little note. And another kind of fun thing about him is he was described as the best dressed Red. I don't know if too many of you are familiar with kind of what they did at Crosley Field there. So if you hit a home run and there was a sign, I don't know if anybody ever remembers this, but it said hit, sign, win, suit. And so it was on top of a laundry building. And so he was always kind of the one hitting home runs, and so he just acquired all these suits. So he would hit those across the left field wall, and so he was always kind of proclaimed as the best dressed Red for all his free suits. Another kind of funny thing that's talked about is in 1957 during batting practice, he put a ball through the new scoreboard at Crosley Field. Just as the scoreboard designer was telling the Reds GM that scoreboard was indestructible. So put a hole right through it, which is kind of neat. So he actually, and I'll get this more towards the end, but he had his longest stint with the Reds, and then he got traded, and between time he was in the Twins, the Phillies, the Indians, and the Reds. And then towards his latter years, he actually was a part of the 1961 World Series team with the Reds. So it was the only time he was able to do that. So they won the National League pennant in '61. That was their first time since 1940. So that was his only World Series of his professional career, and he played in all 5 games, where they ultimately lost to the Yankees. So, but he did his part. And again, this is toward his latter years. But he had 6 hits and 18 at-bats. He had a .333 average with 1 home run, 2 RBIs, and he scored 3 times. So just kind of pretty cool that he was able to sort of end his career in the World Series, because then his next year he finished up technically at Cleveland Indians. So his last game was up in Cleveland in 1964. So he was basically went from the Reds to the Phillies, Phillies back to the Reds, Reds to the Twins, Twins to the Indians, and then he finished up his career. So his career at bats, he had 4,007, 1,064 hits, 210 home runs with an average of batting average of 266. So 594 runs, 699 RBIs, and kind of a cool little letter here. I have this scanned in or up here, and I'll read it to you. But it's funny because it says the Chase Park Plaza Hotel, and this is when he got traded the first time. And a letter from Waite Hoyt to Wally when they traded him to the Minnesota Twins in 1963, which I believe he would have been the commentator. He was a player and then went to be a commentator. It says, everyone will miss you, but sadly, baseball is like that, and I guess we must expect it. Nux, who Joe Nuxall and him became good friends and always were, even when they retired, would go back and forth to each other's homes, golf together, all of that. Nux was pretty well broken up. Despite the release to Minnesota, your future looks good. And as we all do, someday you'll look back and remember it all with a great deal of affection, like I do. Good luck there with that gang, and know we will watch the box scores and pull for you. Thanks for many happy moments. Sincerely, Waite Hoyt. So just kind of a cool little letter. I find it to be funny that it was written on a hotel letterhead. So just kind of some cool pictures here. Again, I should have brought a projector if I could have found one, but he was on cover of Sports Illustrated. I think that would have been Gus Bell was with him on that one. There's some other cool pictures of with his teammates sliding into home plate, the home run derby show, with Frank Robinson, and when he was with the Indians, because that's the team I like. So just kind of some cool pictures there that I had. And then I actually brought some stuff with me. So this right here would be my grandpa. This is Eddie. So this is when he was playing with the Boston Braves. So he was a lefty. So I got an old picture of him here that I have with me. Here is, this is him again, but it's just a newspaper clipping of when he was older. former baseball great that stood at the national anthem at an Old Timers Day in 1976. So just kind of a cool little thing we have here. I actually, and I'm mad at myself because I have, my dad and I, we have a bunch of the contracts. We have the letters that were kind of sent back and forth. We have just kind of some cool stuff that has been acquired from my grandpa, from Wally. And I was down there on Sunday and I was supposed to bring them back and they're still at his house. So he lives an hour and a half away, so I couldn't grab them this week. But I just have some kind of the old pictures that he's signed over time. This is with the Reds. This was one when he was with the Twins. And then I also brought a lot of the cards that we have. So these are all his cards, not all, a lot of his cards over time. And I can pass these around. So these are all hanging in my son's room. So when I was growing up, I had all this stuff hanging up in the basement. Now my son's room is a baseball themed, very old school baseball. So like my grandpa, you know, the gloves that are like single fingered. We've got an old Ted Williams engraved bat, a Wally Post, so we have those hanging in his room. So these are, I hijacked them from his room today, but I'll certainly pass those around if anybody wants to see them. Just some articles, and I have way more of these, but Post Pound's way into select SWAT circles, and so this was just an article about written form and hitting, and this one was August 17th, 1955. So just some cool stuff there. Here's just kind of something else that's neat. I think is pretty cool. So this book, my aunt actually gave me this. It's called The $1,000 Baseball. So it was written by Judy Bruns. She was a young girl whose dad, from where I grew up down in the St. Henry area, was a big Wally Post fan and used to go to games. And so she actually wrote this book kind of remembering that. And she said, "For Brian, in memory of your grandpa Eddie and your great uncle Wally." And the illustrator signed it as well. But it's just in memory of my baseball-loving father, Paul, a devoted fan of Cincinnati Reds and admirer of player Wally Post. So it's just like a real little easy read. Eddie played baseball in my dad's small town. And so this is in my son's room as well. Wally Post played in big league, every player's dream. And so this is kind of her and her dad going to the game. And they don't recall who won or lost, but they'll never forget the baseball Wally gave my dad that day. And so this is kind of just a little story about how that day kind of came together. So talked about how Post was there, McMillan, Bell, Nuxall, all of those were their favorite players. And so just kind of a cool little book where they hit the ball and took the ball out and all that kind of fun stuff. So just a cool little book that everybody can kind of look at if you want. So that was going to be my story for today. Just something kind of cool. I want to do something a little different. Bruce is always calling me Wally, so I figured I would put a little context to that if nobody really knew why. And it just has to. And so today in St. Henry, our sports complex, where we have our baseball field, our football field, practice field, that's called the Wally Post Athletic Complex, kind of named after him. So he actually ended up dying at a pretty young age of cancer, and so there's a big Wally Post golf outing. And even years ago, a lot of the players would still come up and they raise money for cancer awareness for the Mercer County Cancer Organization. So my grandpa actually died at a really young age too. My dad, I believe, was a senior in high school. He had a heart attack, and Wally had cancer. So both died too young. So I honestly never got to meet either of them, which is too bad. But hear a lot of stories still talked about to this day, and he played in the 50s and 60s. So still some pretty cool stuff that we like to hold on to and talk about. And someday I will get those binders and bring them up and show you the contracts and the pay stubs, and it's pretty neat, pretty cool stuff. So at least to me. So yes, sir.
Did your grandpa, or did Wally pitch? And they talked about his hitting all the time. And he pitched when he was younger, but when he played in the majors, did he pitch?
No, they moved him to majors. They basically, so he played a lot of outfield, but once he got up to the majors, they kind of took him away from that because he became more of a slugger. So they wanted him on the field more often, so they put him out in the field. And so he was actually a really good outfielder. I think for 6 consecutive years in the 50s, he led the league in assists, so putouts, essentially.
Right. They must have had some good speed too if they had him pinch running and stuff too.
That was early. He only had 19 stolen bases, so I don't know if they really didn't do much of that back in the day or not.
Right.
But
Well, I know
So-
the one time you said they put him in the pinch.
Yeah,
run.
early, yeah, before he actually kind of started his,
I don't think they did that very often.
yeah, yeah.
They do that a lot more now.
So, do you remember about what he made then?
I don't, and I was trying to look up contracts and stuff online. No, I don't really remember, but we have all the paperwork, and it's not very much. It's, you know, just that show alone, $2,000 if you won that day, which is a lot of money.
Well, I'm
Man.
thinking, you know, back then, I don't know, $1 an hour might have been an average wage, which means $2,000 might have been near
Yeah,
an average salary year's wages.
yeah. Yeah, so I don't know, and I'm gonna try to go back and find that stuff, because I do know, and because I remember looking at it, my friends would come over and we'd look at it, and we even have pictures of like when he was in the military, on the military boats and stuff like that. So just a couple binders that I don't even know who kept them, my grandma, whoever, over time, and they put this binder together with that information.
My wife's grandfather coached the Pistons, and they were the Fort Wayne Zollner Pistons. And I saw his one contract he signed in 48 or 49. I don't think it was 1950, but it was one of those years.
Yeah.
$12,000 a year to coach the Pistons, you know.
$1,000 a
Oh,
month.
it'd been
Pretty
a lot
big
back
money.
then.
A lot.
Yeah, pretty big money back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then when he retired, his in-laws, it's called Beckman and Gas Canning. It's like a canning factory, green beans, stuff like that. That's where he went back and worked. My grandpa went back and worked at Mercer Beverage, which is like a distribution center. So he worked.
So they moved back to
They
St.
both,
Henry?
yep, moved back.
Wow.
Afterwards, and so that's when they would, you know, they'd go do things. They'd swing by and pick up nucks, and then that's what they said. They'd pick up nucks and they'd go kind of do things together. So, just pretty cool stuff to kind of think about how that stuff doesn't happen today. You know, you don't have to work after you retire in the major leagues today.
Now, did your
Yeah.
family move to Cincinnati, and did your dad, growing up, move to those?
No.
He remained in St. Henry, and he just
Yeah.
came back
Yeah.
at the end of
Yeah.
the season. or
Yeah.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and also Wally had three daughters and a son. They all live in St. Henry, and so Wally's grandson would be Bobby Hoying, the quarterback for Ohio State,
yeah.
Mr. Football, Mr. Ohio. So that would be his grandson. So it's just pretty cool stuff. But yeah, the family has always stayed around, and there's a lot of Post
That's
family
unusual,
name
yeah.
down there. So
It would have been there about Garber would have been playing during that time period, wouldn't he?
Who?
Ned?
Garber.
Ned played in the 40s. Well, he played in the
He played
50s
in
too.
the
He played in the 50s too. I don't know if he played in the 60s.
Yeah.
overlapped a little bit.
Yeah,
They would have overlapped
he
some.
played for St.
Yeah.
Louis
They would
Browns.
have been, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, probably during that
What
period of
Garber's
time.
age was compared to
Yeah.
that, but that
We
would have
gotta go
graduated
back and look at
45.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they might have been not far apart in age, so they
Yeah.
might have played ball when he's younger, but yeah.
Biggest in the last 20 years.
Yeah, so just something different today.
I think it's amazing.
So you get to go watch some Ohio State games when Bobby's quarterback?
I did. So,
Christmas break was.
I mean, that's Bobby and Tom, his brother, he played there too. And then Jim Lachey, he's from my hometown too. So a lot of names, if you remember that. Jeff Hardings, who played for the Lions.
Give him a shake.
Yep, he's from St. Henry too. Jeff Hardings, who would have played for the Steelers and Lions for a long time, he's from St. Henry as well. So there was a lot of talent that we got the ability to go see different games and bring us to NFL games and stuff like that when we were growing up. So we played football wherever Jeff was pretty much playing, whether we go to Indy or Detroit. If he was on a road game, our football team would go and watch him.
It's an interesting thing, and Brian shared this with me. When Brian played at St. Henry, tell me about your records, and your sister too played volleyball?
Yeah, she played volleyball. And yep.
So in high school, what was your records? Season
Well,
records.
yeah, so we were pretty fortunate when I was in school. It was a heck of a time from 98, 99, 2000 to 2004, 5, and 6. I personally was able to win 2 state championships. I won a basketball when I was a senior, a baseball when I was a junior. My sister won volleyball when she was a junior. And then we won 3 state titles in 5 years. We won basketball in 04. They went in 2000. It was just a softball. When we went in baseball in 2003, our softball team was also in the state championship game. So it was just one of those times where, and I say this, I'm guilty of it. Like, I didn't realize what I was in the middle of. I was just a kid working hard, having fun with my friends, and not realizing, like, this doesn't happen everywhere. we're playing in one game and loading up and going to another game to watch our team, our friends, and we were pretty fortunate. And so then even after I graduated, football won a state championship, volleyball won the year after I graduated, state championship, and they were state runners-up the year we were seniors. And so the amount of times that we went to the state championship was a lot of fun. Never take that for granted, but it was pretty cool. And so we had guys go play at Ohio State, baseball, football, some MAC schools, and it was a ton of fun. It brought out a lot of great competition, a lot of hard work. I mean, if you didn't work your tail off, you weren't making that team. I can promise you that. But it was a lot of fun. So
That whole area down there, if you guys ever travel, in that whole area into these towns down there, you pull into town and you see state champions
listed.
Geez, so Pete, I mean, it's gigantic, you know.
So it was a lot of fun. Love where I'm from, love where I'm at now, but I was always, you're tied to your roots, and having this story as a part of my life is something that's pretty cool. So never really got to meet any of them, but still have that Post name, and it's pretty cool.
Did Wally get close to the Hall of Fame then, or not?
He's a Cincinnati Red Hall of Fame.
Okay.
He was inducted into the Hall of Fame for the Reds.
I figured he got some votes for the.
I don't know. I should look into that. I don't know if he ever got. He did not get into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, but he is a Cincinnati Red Hall of Famer.
You know, you didn't mention Roger Maris, but in the 61s when he set his record, you know, and you talk about the home runs and the guys that were doing it,
Yeah.
you know, I was almost surprised that he wasn't invited to the home run.
Yeah.
Or
That
maybe
little
he
show
was.
or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure he was at. Yeah, they said some names in there.
You know, all those guys you mentioned are in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I mean, I think every one of them, well, not Gus, I don't think he is, he's in Cincinnati probably, but
Hicksville.
those other guys are in there, are all in the Hall of Fame. I mean, Matthews,
Great
Aaron,
players back then.
Willie Mays, all those guys, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I heard stories. Just from in town, like, you know, they used to say there wasn't fences in a lot of these ball diamonds back then, and they would just, I mean, Wally would just hit it, and it'd just be gone. It just would go, you know, and they said it was just unbelievable. I hear a story, so like where Houston, Ohio is, the baseball field, there's a highway that kind of goes over here that he hit one and just went all the way across, and pretty impressive. But just kind of some fun stuff.
Yeah, that would have been a neat life though.
Yeah. So,
Any
well,
other
thank you.
questions for Brian? Not, thank you, Brian. I guess you're welcome to come up here. To me, this stuff is fascinating, and I'm so glad that he did a program of it, so I thank you,
Yeah,
Brian.
absolutely.
Thank you. So with this, we'll stand up, be dismissed by the pledge.